Fran come on board, and I'll hand the microphone over to you.
Thank you so much, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm stoked to be in West Bend. I don't think I've been here for at least 10 years now, and we on our campaign know that it's incredibly important to meet folks where they are. Your government should be accessible, your government should be coming to you, and your government should be one that genuinely cares about the thing that you care about and the community that you are in. I want to first thank Stephen for organizing this event. It's going to be organizing and organizers like Stephen, like Maybelline, who designed this sick poster. And people coming together to meet other folks who are in resistance with us, who believe that right now is a movement moment, and a movement requires some disruption. So I'm incredibly proud to be born and raised in this state. Madison's my hometown, so I get to love it, and sometimes I get to children. Sometimes I get to make fun of it a little bit too. And I think sometimes we think of ourselves in Madison too much of like living in this blue progressive bubble. So when I was elected to the state legislature in 2020, the first thing I did was get out of Dane County. And it was really important to me to go meet candidates who were running in red or purple districts for the state assembly. Because not enough folks know that the state legislature that holds the purse strings for our state. And for the last 16 years, Robin Voss, and an authoritarian rule, has manufactured power for Republicans and has made it so that we are often divided and building a lot of resentment towards each other, whether you're in a suburban area, a rural area, or an urban area. And what I learned from a lot of amazing candidates who were running for the assembly, whether it was in Baldwin, Wisconsin, or Sheboygan, out to De Pere, I love Sheboygan, the Malibu of the Midwest, that our Wisconsin values of working hard, taking care of our neighbors, believing in community, that exists everywhere. And I think a lot of the times when we have, everyone also tells me that there's someone they might not be talking to anymore because of how divided our country and our state have gotten. And I think this moment right now is different. There's an opportunity to potentially bridge some of those divides. And I know that oftentimes I may be viewed as, what do they say about me? Tom Tiffany has Francesca Fridays now. He and I both love alliteration, I guess.
If he knows what it is.
That's the shade I'm here for. But I think right now is a time where working families come together, where we have a common villain, and that's fascism. That's what we're seeing in Minneapolis right now. That's what we're seeing consistently come out from the federal government. They want us to continue to blame some of the most vulnerable communities so that we don't believe in community. I'm a very proud service industry worker. So right now I'm a baker. Yes. We're built different. So I want to definitely thank the Hub for, I looked at those 6 burners over there and I was like, yeah, I miss line cooking a bit because last year I was mostly bartending. But I owned a restaurant for 7 years, and while I went to McAllister, I was just telling Lawrence here for a little bit, and then, and then was at UW Madison for a year. I actually dropped out to pursue cooking. and I worked multiple minimum wage jobs in as many restaurants that would hire a scrappy, tenacious college dropout, and I ended up becoming an executive chef because of mentorship, because of people recognizing that this Wisconsin girl not only works hard, but she's willing to work with the team and understand that if we're going to have a service, a Friday night service where you know you're gonna get hit hard and you have a line of tickets, that it's going to take understanding what each position does and how hard everyone works in order to be successful. So it's my time in the service industry working as a chef and having a restaurant for 7 years where I learned the values of working together as a team, and I also saw what people are capable of, both in terms of treating their community with kindness, and also I saw kind of the worst of humanity and what people can do when they talk down to folks who are in the service industry. And I take those experiences, and in the legislature, I think it actually gives me a superpower to be able to encourage folks that, as elected officials especially, we have to put our egos aside. We're in the minority party. We should be doing more work in the communities than just trying to pass legislation that often will not even get a public hearing. On the sidebar here, most Democratic bills, about 2% of them maybe will get a public hearing. And we're introducing bills like legalizing cannabis, fully funding our public schools, healthy school meals for all, comprehensive paid leave for everyone so that no one has to choose between getting a paycheck and taking care of themselves or a loved one. We're an aging state. And that legislation is ready to go. I'm really proud to have introduced it for the last 2 sessions. It's one of the most comprehensive paid leave bills in the country, and we're seeing paid leave for all pass in other states. In our neighbors in Minnesota, New Mexico has it now, and universal child care, New Mexico again, coming out front. We shouldn't have to choose between paying our bills and making a living and oftentimes struggling. That shouldn't be our reality, and it doesn't have to be this way. I think a lot of times we have these bills that we introduce, Badger Care public option, basic health plans to ensure that every single Wisconsinite can have high quality, affordable, cheaper, but better health care, that our public schools, that we're investing in special education, ensuring that every child has an opportunity to thrive. These are things that are possible, and whether it's a Democrat or Republican, I will hear over and over again that how are we going to pay for it, and this isn't feasible, where the people who are in rural or Republicans, moderates going to think, and I remind folks, it's the playbook and the plays that we've been doing in the past that got us here. It costs us too much not to do these things, to ensure that our shared future, our multi-generational movement is actually going to be able to be proud of and have the ability to take care of themselves and their loved ones in this state. We push for universal policies like universal childcare, paid leave for all, affordable housing for everyone, because no one should be too poor to live in our state, but also the crises and the struggles of this moment demand bold, transformative policies, because we don't ever want to come back here. And we're hearing about affordability, and I think that's great, but I don't want it to be a buzzword. I want permanent affordability for this state, and I want you to have permanent affordability so that you can continue to have economic freedom to be able to live the life that you want, be able to take a vacation. And if you're taking vacations right now, I love that for you. Hopefully when you see everyone else having more economic security and economic freedom, you're probably going to be able to take a longer vacation. I want to go back real quickly to 2020 as to why I ran for office as a foul-mouthed mom, service industry worker, but someone who deeply believes in community. And it's because I think we all come out of grief differently, but we all come out from a place of grief wanting change. And in 2020, there were a lot of folks grieving because of the COVID pandemic. And right now, there are a lot of folks grieving because we are living through a time where government wants to attack its people instead of being by the people. When there is chaos and when there is crisis, there is deep opportunity for change. And they don't want us to build community like I'm seeing here right now. But I'm talking to folks in Minneapolis, and when the state violence and ICE agents were occupying their city, it was neighbor by neighbor, block by block organizing that netted them wins. ICE agents are starting to leave the area, and it's folks coming together, whether it's in protest, whether it's in mutual aid and showing up with groceries, hosting a food drive. These are things that we can all be doing right now that are part of resistance. Fascism wins when we stop imagining better, when we stop taking care of one another. And whether it's in West Bend or Madison, Malibu of the Midwest, or Superior, Ashland, these are communities that we've been in where we're seeing community building happen. So we are going to continue to work towards a Wisconsin that is better for everyone, where we invest in our kids, when there is universal childcare, we are fully funding our public schools, there is paid leave for all, and affordable, high-quality healthcare for every single person in this state. And if you want to know if I've got a plan for it, you can go to francescahong.com/policy. We were the first campaign to come out with a comprehensive plan as to how we are going to achieve this. And a lot of the bills we've already drafted and introduced. And I think that when we have a state legislature, when more folks like me and more folks here are continuing to support our candidates for the state assembly and for the state senate, can you all take your phones out and remember these cities real quick? So you're gonna wanna support your state legislative candidates here in West Bend. But if you know folks in Wausau, Hudson area, Oak Creek, Neenah Menasha, Green Bay around De Pere, the Dodgeville area, those are districts that we can absolutely flip from Republican to Democrat. And if we gain 5 more seats in the assembly, we'll have a majority. If we gain 2 more seats in the state senate, we'll have a Democratic majority. And when we've got a bold, tenacious, current bartender, baker, and restaurant owner committed to ensuring permanent affordability for everyone, I think we're going to build a Wisconsin that's going to be better for everyone for generations to come. It is going to take organizing. It is going to take sharing your talents and your time. I know I mentioned protest before, but there are a lot of ways to stay involved if you're not out here with us in the streets. It's okay. You can volunteer for our campaign. You can. I am so proud that our movement, community-powered campaign, has almost 2,000 volunteers signed up. We were the only campaign to have over 7,400 individual donations, which is more than the next 2 candidates combined. We have an average donation of under $50 and over 5,000 individual donors. This is a grassroots movement. This is community powered. This is the year where our campaign shows that we are going to be about the many and we will defeat the money. Folks all across the country are ready for a different type of leadership. for organizers and a working class person that you can see yourself in, that you can see yourself in the vision that we have to be changing the way politics works in our state. This state is where Social Security was born. This state is where environmentalism was born. This state is where unemployment insurance was born. We have deep progressive roots, and we're going to grow a progressive future. If we have someone like me, thank you, I know, definitely deserves applause. If we have someone like me win the governorship in this state, we're going to see politics and campaigns change all across the country. We're going to have more people, and mind you, I got the Grays, but I'm still the youngest candidate in this race. But I know we'll have more single moms like me running for office. We'll have more service industry folks running for office. We'll see movement building and folks learning to be strong community organizers. That's another thing that I'm so proud of. I mean, look at Stephen. The fact that beyond August and November, our campaign is committed to ensuring more people have resources to be able to organize in their community, whether it's meetings in church basements, to organizing protests, to ensure that people stay engaged in what's going on in their community. I know things right now at the federal level are not only devastating, but it makes me sometimes, like many others, apathetic. But when we give into that, when we don't imagine better, again, I have to reinforce that's when fascism wins. So we defeat fascism when we come together as community, neighbor by neighbor, block by block, when we fight for our kids, when we ensure folks that it shouldn't be about how can we pay for this, how can we make this happen. We have to make it happen together and stop asking those questions, because what that playbook has done has brought us here. So I want to thank each of you again so much for, oh my gosh, that's my friend who used to come to the restaurant all the time. I believe in community. I believe in community power. And I know that it is going to be organizing in community and building that power from the local to the state out that is going to help us ensure that we have a shared future where we continue to care about one another. So I want to thank you for caring. I want to thank you for showing up. And I want to thank you each for what I hope is you'll choose to continue to be an organizer. And now my favorite part of every event, I would love to take questions. We can talk about policy, my favorite recipes, my favorite dive bars in Wisconsin. But it's important to me that I hear from you, so. Yes?
Undoubtedly, Scott Walker did a lot of damage to union and workers' rights in the state. I'm guessing that you do have a plan, hopefully with a friendly legislature, to work out that restores those rights.
Workers' rights. We know that when workers can unionize, all workers benefit. And it's not enough to just repeal Act 10, which we can do through the legislature or potentially the state Supreme Court. We have to put a stake in it. We have to make sure that legislation like Act 10 can never be presented again. And so I'm interested in actually having a ballot referenda for Act 10 so that it's enshrined in our Constitution. In repealing, yes, ensure that everyone has a right to collectively bargain and unionize in our state. Reinstating prevailing wages and making sure that we repeal right to work. I think those are the first steps in ensuring that we can build back union power. There's a reason that they attacked public education, union rights, immediately to make sure that we actually became a state that took care of the billionaires and the millionaire few, as opposed to workers and taking away the rights of our workers and our kids. So we're going to be able to build that back with investments, but ensuring that we're prioritizing that, whether it's through the Constitution, the Supreme Court, the governor's budget. The majority of our state truly believes in workers' rights. And for our Economic Justice Bill of Rights that we've introduced every session, it guarantees that everyone has a right to a union and to collectively bargain. Yes.
At one time, I taught in Gaza. Do you have a view about Palestinian human rights?
Palestinian liberation is connected to every issue, and what is happening in Gaza, where our tax dollars are going to bomb children, is deeply inhumane and it's their human rights violation. And so I have been clear on my position on Palestine, called for ceasefire back in October of 2023, and I'm hoping that that people don't forget about Palestine, and that we should never have second-class citizens in our world, and Palestinians deserve better. Yes, Stephen.
Oh, I'm just waving at somebody this week.
Oh, we love it.
Hey, Fran, I would like to say something. I'm on Fran's campaign team as a volunteer. I met her about 3.5 months ago.
Feels like we've known each other.
Yeah, she's like a sister to me. I met her in Beaver Dam at an event similar to this, and I remember the very first thing I ever said to you, Fran, do you remember that?
I think you called me smart. Well, that's what I remember.
I looked into her eyes and I said, after hearing her talk, I said, you're going to witness the election on your intelligence. And that's what it takes. Somebody can think outside the box. Somebody can think at a deeper level. And the other things I noticed about her is her extreme love and compassion for people. You don't see that all the time. The last thing I like to say is she's one of us. She struggles to make her rent every month like I do. She just knows what it's about, being average, being middle class.
I think being everyday working people here in our state, I'm proud to be that. I think all across the state, there are folks working multiple jobs, people on fixed incomes who deserve so much better, and their government owes them. We shouldn't have to choose between going to work and taking care of ourselves, or seeing our schools closed because the state refuses to fund them, yet our property taxes are going up because we have an insane school funding system. But we've got a common villain now, and that's fascism. We have people in government who are more concerned about corruption than actually caring for people. And so when we have more fair, I want tax fairness, okay? I want our taxes to stop going up. I want my taxes going to the things that I care about, like our roads, libraries, and our public schools. And working class people should have more of a say in where their taxes go. As a small business owner, I know I'm going off now. As a small business owner, my income tax was almost the same rate, and actually higher than some of the largest corporations who are either writing off profits for a business that didn't make money, or they got this manufacturing agriculture tax credit. 90% of the businesses in Wisconsin are small businesses, and many of us were getting screwed and continue to get screwed because of a skewed tax system. We shouldn't have corporate subsidies when we got working class people working hard. And when folks are like, how are you gonna pay for this stuff? I know I keep bringing it up. I mean it when I say tax the fucking billionaires.
I'm really concerned about ICE moving into Wisconsin. I've been out there helping as much as I can. They're coming into Hudson now.
Yep.
As a governor, what would you do to be more bold than what we're currently seeing?
ICE has actually been in Wisconsin every day since January. I've talked to folks in Baldwin, Hudson, River Falls, Eau Claire, Verona, Viroqua, La Crosse. Western Wisconsin is starting to see increased ICE activity, and it is terrifying. But the community organizing, the neighborhood rapid response, the systems of care that are being built for folks to be able to do everything from patrol to make sure that folks have rights to work, that people who are too scared to go out right now because they are a target and have some melanin in their skin, there are folks coming out to take care of them. There is no state law that could ban ICE from entering public spaces. But there is a lot we can do to make Wisconsin a hostile place for ICE. And one of the first things, because the governor has the largest mic, the loudest mic, is to say, ICE out. Abolish ICE. ICE is not welcome here. Because that's centering safety. That's focusing on everyone's safety. We introduced legislation back in August. I introduced a bill that would eliminate 287G agreements so that local law enforcement could not coordinate and help ICE. We included due process for all, a bill that would provide financial assistance for folks who are in immigration courts with legal services. We have the No Secret Police Act to ensure that no ICE agent is cowardly in our neighborhoods with a mask and something covering up their identity. They would have to have clear identification. And then unless there is a signed judicial warrant, there are no ICE agents that can access our community spaces like childcare centers, schools, churches, and even public buildings. We can continue to declare a state of emergency to ensure that we can provide funds to local governments to be able to have their own resources to fight back against ICE. But because enforcement of federal law, even though it's being done by lawless individuals, the state prohibitions make it so that we can absolutely prevent coordination and make it a hostile place, but we can't ban agents from coming into our communities. But what elected officials and those with means right now should be doing, and we're gonna start doing this as well, is using campaign funds to continue to help support immigrant justice organizations like Voces de la Frontera and Monarca. I would love to see more of these bracelets that have 1-800-427-0213. This is the Voces hotline. And when I said before, neighbor by neighbor, block by block, start talking to your neighbors. Introduce yourselves with a note. I'm someone that's gonna give you a cup of sugar. See if they're willing to get on one of those chats like Signal or WhatsApp where you can make messages disappear. Our campaign just sent out an email about security checklists, how to ways that you can start building your own rapid response networks. Because when systems fail and our safety is at risk, community steps up. So we have to start thinking of ways to build systems of rapid response to be prepared for this. And I can tell you right now, in Baldwin, Wisconsin, a restaurant that we were supposed to have an event at because we wanted to support an immigrant-owned restaurant was actually raided by ICE about a day before we went there. We have people who are very close to this campaign whose loved ones were abducted in Minnesota and then sent to El Paso within a day. So what we're seeing in Minneapolis or what we are hearing about, I'm not gonna mince words, it's very difficult because I think sometimes it's worse. But when I go into talking to community organizers in Baldwin, what they're doing to support their ELL teachers, how people are coming together. I saw a message today about helping somebody move. I mean, there's a mechanic from, southeastern Minneapolis who went to help and bring more cars that might be able to help folks patrol their streets. There is immense organizing power in community, and we unlock that. There are no guarantees, but I tell you, the ICE is starting to leave Minneapolis. We can win in our communities in different ways. It's terrifying, but as governor, I would ensure that everyone knew where their governor stood on ICE.
My question's about AI data centers. Obviously, the most serious reforms would have to come from the legislature, but what are some executive actions that you could take as governor on that topic?
We can call into special session and call in an extraordinary session and have the legislature look at bills like the one I introduced just this week that would put a pause on AI data centers. There are some other language in there that I'm working on because I think it's important that all AI data centers construction that might be happening, that we guarantee that those construction jobs are union jobs, that we are holding them accountable to investing in renewable energies for their energy use. But our campaign has made a call for a moratorium on the construction of new complex AI data centers until we have statutes that are passed for the Public Service Commission to ensure that there's more specific language for them to be able to better assess how to determine the rate for utility use. And then our Control-Alt-Delete plan is controlling our alternative energies and deleting corporate subsidies. There are many AI data centers right now that do not pay sales and use tax, and that's unacceptable when they're using up our water, our electricity, and polluting our air. And I know not all AI data centers are built the same, but when I am hearing about more people who have lost their jobs to AI, it is incredibly terrifying that we don't have better mechanisms to regulate AI, but we can do a lot more in our state to make it hostile to build complex AI data centers. So as governor, you call in the legislature, you have your expectations out, you continue to build public pressure, but I think that right now, I have not seen this amount of bipartisan opposition. I mean, the person who's got the most feelings about it is Charlie Barron's. Whew! But people are organizing. This is one of the strongest ways that I have seen people exercising their democratic rights and making their voices heard. We also want to make sure we're eliminating NDAs and that there's full transparency and accountability on how these, what will likely be abandoned assets. And for a lot of folks who are complaining about how ugly they are, I'm very concerned about what this does to our grid. Our natural resources should never be for sale, and I worry about us going back to pipelines and natural gas. But as governor, I think making that position known, bringing the stakeholders to the table, and calling for legislation to pass that would actually regulate and ensure that we're investing in renewables and union jobs, that would be the call through extraordinary session and negotiations with leadership in both houses.
Views on school funding in general, charter schools, choice schools.
So when I say fully funding public schools, I mean increases to general aids and ensuring that our aids are indexed to, our pupil aids are indexed to inflation, 90% reimbursement rate like the choice schools get right now, and sunsetting a program where public dollars are going to private schools. Our state cannot afford to fund two school systems, and I don't think it's right that families are getting coupons to send their kids to private school. You can send your kid to whatever school you want, but public dollars belong in public schools. So
At the age that I'm at,
what's the age that you're at?
15.
Welcome.
I consistently worry about like just living in federal because I don't know if I'll be able to like purchase anything.
No,
Especially with like mental disabilities that can be described as autism. Yeah.
When we have more opportunities for people to be able to choose what they want to do with their money, whether it's through the state, right? We should be investing in people when we have tax dollars go to the state. I'm hoping that we can work towards, more loan forgiveness for our public universities, that we can work towards having a jobs guarantee, that when we fully fund our public schools and invest in a workforce for educators, mental health workers, that we'll be able to provide more students like you with supports that you need. I look at, and I encourage you to go through the history books. FDR, before the president that came after him, had an economic bill of rights. And we've introduced the last couple sessions the Economic Justice Bill of Rights. And I think ensuring that everyone has a good paying job, access to public education, access to childcare, public transit, clean air, water, and lands, that we can build towards something where you won't have to be worried all the time of just being able to exist in your state and affording to live where you want to live. So these social insurance programs, these universal policies that I will talk about, will help lower costs for everyone, because you won't have to choose between affording, having to go to school or affording your rent. When we've got fully funded schools and we lower property taxes for everyone, that we have tenant protection so that you're protected from spikes in your security deposit or your rent. I think this is what your government owes you. And I really hope that in order to meet the speed and the scale of people's struggles rising, that we need government action that is bold and transformative, and that we pass it as soon as possible so that young people like yourself can see more for your future, and you don't have to worry so much about the cost. You can just be living your best life. Yes.
This is kind of a purely hypothetical question, but still kind of possible it can happen. I know that last year in November, the Supreme Court, it denied taking up the case of reconsidering same-sex marriage. If that does happen to go back to the Supreme Court and they approve it, and then it goes to the states, could we count on you to continue to allow gay marriage to happen?
We have to put it in the Constitution right away. I think that we can pass it through ballot referenda, but we'll need to pass legislation to ensure that gay marriage remains legal and in our Constitution in the state. That legislation has been introduced. It's even more important that we have a Democratic trifecta so we can make sure we pass it as soon as possible. So it was devastating to see threats from the federal government for hospitals to stop gender-affirming care or choose to pause gender-affirming care because they were afraid of losing other funding. I would veto every single bill that was anti-trans or aims to take away whatever hurt trans people. Tony's done a good job of that in office. But we also have to expand healthcare. We have to make it easier to be able to change your name, ensure that more public banks don't I remember having to cross out some of the paychecks that I would write for folks who were still getting their dead name put on their paychecks. And that trans folks don't have to have a name change in their local newspaper. So there's both local and state legislation that we can pass to ensure that we're protecting trans rights. But if there were to be any bills that would come to my desk that hurts trans folks, it would be an immediate veto. Yes. Thanks, Harry.
Data centers, they must have been planning for a long time. Why did we find out about it recently? And why weren't we warned? I'm thinking the cost of living a lot higher.
I'm about to. I'm about to.
Oh, no, you can stay. No, you don't have to worry. You can stay. You can stay.
No, it's okay. He will just be moving louder, unfortunately. And it's very. Oh,
I
and
can
we,
go
I can hear you the other side. Nathaniel, can you bring me your shoes?
So I can't remember exactly when, but the governor and Microsoft announced the construction of new AI data centers. They have grown at a very alarming rate, and they're targeting. They started when these larger companies, oftentimes shell companies off of Facebook or Amazon, started purchasing lands. And I don't blame anyone who's selling their lands. It's really, especially farmers, it's really hard to be farming right now. But they started expanding in scale with these land, with these land purchases, and then coming in with contracts. A lot of local ordinances are going to determine, if these massive centers are going to be built in a community. And the reason why there was sometimes a lack of transparency and folks weren't knowing about it was that local elected officials were getting offers from these data centers to be built in communities. And if they were signing an NDA, then there would not be a lot of information that's disclosed to the public. So that's not every construction for AI data centers, but that's part of what happened. And you're absolutely right that utility costs will go up. And for folks who are in the communities, they will be at an alarming higher rate. The AI data center that is slated to be built in Port Washington would use 7 times the amount of power that we do in the city of Madison.
I'm hoping it's going to be a lot more because we're bringing in
I'm concerned about the estimates for how many jobs beyond the construction jobs, which we need them to be union jobs, these data centers will be bringing in, because once they're built, there isn't it doesn't take a lot of people to staff them. Some security. In Illinois, there was an AI data center that I believe got about $33 million in subsidies, and they created about 21 jobs. So again, that's one stat, but the return on investment from these AI data centers is not looking good. And beyond that, a lot of these companies in AI are operating on a deficit. So I have deep concerns that the state are going into business with another business that's operating at a loss. And both the immediate future impact what this will do to local economies, if we're going to actually see a growth in our local economies and more people moving in. It's possible, but I think that risk when we are on a tech bubble and it's likely that it could become an abandoned asset and then if it does, taxpayers are on the hook again. I want folks to look up Foxconn. I don't want us to be Foxconn. Yes.
So about Port Washington Center, actually. So even like the surrounding communities around Port Washington, a lot of them have power lines go up in their communities that runs through their property, that they weren't aware of, they bought property in some circumstances. And it seems to me like those, like as far as I'm aware, like those other communities that weren't Port didn't have really much of a say in that. That doesn't seem right to me. I don't know if there's something that the state could do about that.
I live in the town of Port, but we didn't have a say.
Yeah.
So it was just the city that had the ruling for everything, if that makes sense.
So they're talking about power lines going in communities around Port Washington, that there was no notification to the residents. Have they started construction on those?
They started construction. They said,
Right. Okay. They will be going, like you got notice that they're just going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were told that they were going in, and it didn't seem like even our village government had any say in that.
Yeah, I think the state can absolutely put in transparency and accountability measures of local government notifying communities around them as well. But Wisconsin is also a local control state, so I would have to check if that's something that the state can promulgate or if it's something that would have to happen at a local level. But that transparency and accountability is a huge issue. And we could, I believe, draft legislation that would, specifically for AI data centers, have it so that would require notification to surrounding communities. Right now, folks can, and I don't have the exact dates, but if you go to the website for the Public Service Commission, they are really looking for public input, whether it's email, letter, or calling. The way that they determine rates, the statute has it that it's supposed to be in the interest of the public, so the more input that they have from the public. But again, I got to point to our Republican legislature here not allowing us to pass more legislation that would give the PSC, now I'm going into the weeds here, but I worry that they're operating from a place of trying not to get sued, which isn't in the public interest because I think it keeps them from actually having stricter statutes and policies that would go on things like AI data centers. So that's another change that we have to make in the legislature, which is why it's so important to have a trifecta and elect Democrats to the legislature. Yes.
While we're on data centers, I know the conversation right now is very centered on construction. Can you talk more about the regulation of the technologies themselves, harms and psychosis, the copyright infringement issues, even if it weren't for the environmental destruction of the data centers themselves, how are those technologies going to be prevented from causing harm, also including AI-generated abuse materials, things like that no one is even trying, it feels like, to stop. It's going down.
Regulation of AI is complicated, and because of, as you said, it's getting more sophisticated faster. I have seen some legislation come out of California. I think right now we can do more when it comes to flock cameras and surveillance using AI, but preventing some of these companies from operating potentially here in Wisconsin, but we have to look at regulating them both at the federal and the state level. I need to become more familiar with the type of regulation that we could implement, but I agree with you that we're not talking about it as much. We're just talking about how AI growth is scary, but we need more specific regulation, especially when it comes to protecting our kids. But I think when there are, what I'm seeing with some regulation is that it may increase surveillance as a way of like accessing it. So there's bills where it's like IDs or like facial recognition to be able to enter certain sites, and that AI would be, used to be able to recognize and have you enter a site or whatever. There's legislation that's being passed for that to happen. So my thought was, well, let's make sure that legislation doesn't pass in states like Wisconsin. Yeah. Research. And I'm very fortunate to have the policy posse for Team Hong, and so we can absolutely have this get to the top of the list, is regulating AI.
So speaking with AI, Microsoft just released data that they're looking at eliminating at least 40 different positions, many of which are entry level for people. By using AI, how can we preserve some of those jobs as human jobs so that when this AI bubble bursts, we're not scrambling to find people to fill these positions, and there's not that skills gap?
I'm not quite sure between like the tech burst and the AI burst. I think they might be separate things. There is a lot of concern around quote unquote white collar jobs in copywriting or data analysts potentially being, eliminating jobs. I think then it's really important that we're investing here in this state in job training opportunities for different fields, investing heavily in renewables, looking at ways that the state can ensure that we're protecting public sector jobs and not replacing that with AI. Right now, we're seeing bills that would, like, in the name of efficiencies, right, allow potential facilitation of that. But I think the answer I have for you right now is to ensure that we are providing as many opportunities as possible for folks to learn different skills. In our care economy especially, I mentioned before we're an aging state, and within the next 10 years, we'll have more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 18. And care jobs are not jobs that you can automate, and they're ones that take immense mental and emotional capacity, and we need to make sure we're investing in those, both with increasing living wages for in-home care folks to have better wages and benefits, and looking at maybe, again, I'm repeating myself now, but if we invest in skills and training for jobs that we know can't be automated, I would hope that that provides some security for folks who may be at risk of losing their job to AI. That investment in care economy, I think, can be a good response. Amanda, I want to make sure you get an opportunity to speak as well. Amanda just let us know, Amanda's a candidate for Congress as well. We Energy's public comments are due February 17th. You can submit public comment at www.healthyclimatewi.org/data centers. I'll leave the paper here. Healthy Climate is the group of healthcare workers fighting for climate justice. We had a physician with us when we rolled our pause on data centers bill this week. It was really powerful to hear the public health harms that are going to come from growing and the construction of more of these data centers. It's a broad coalition, and I think there's more that we have to learn. There's more that the state has to do, and we have to be very mindful as well that our local governments have been starved of revenue for the last 16 years under Republican rule. And so when there is an opportunity for more revenue, and that's part of why I think some of us were not getting a lot of information about these contracts that were potentially being signed, I just want folks to understand that nuance is like being forced into these really difficult situations was a policy choice by Republicans. Because I know in the city of Madison, not only is the state not paying us back for the utility costs that we have for all the state buildings in our city, we get about 19 cents back for every dollar we send into the state. So when your local government, your city, the folks in city council are working on a budget and they don't have enough revenue because the state is hoarding that money, it directly impacts for the services that are offered to their communities. And so that's, I think, part of why certain local governments are considering bringing in these AI data centers. And it is important to recognize that nuance, but I think the harm doesn't outweigh the money that they need. Okay, yes, last question. And then if you folks have more questions, you can email us at fran@francescahong.com. Yes. Oh, you're good.
Is there a possibility on the state level where if a city or township is going to invest in something that's going to increase property taxes or anything like that would happen?
Like a referenda?
Forced to referenda, instead of being up to city or county supervisors who could have other ideas in mind?
So a lot of cities and counties are forced, or the cities are forced to go to referenda and forced to, like, asking taxpayers to raise property taxes on themselves because of our lack of funding for public schools. I think for, like, yeah.
And they're talking about not even putting the jail up for referendum, and that could be a $400 million expenditure that is then put on the Fond du Lac County residents.
So they're building the jail and then,
Well,
or
there's still
the
bids, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that they're talking about. They're not going to send it to referendum, and it's just up to the county supervisors.
I don't like that much.
I don't know if that can be promulgated by the state, but can you write me an email?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the intricacies of county and local government of, like, what, yeah. Wisconsin is heavily a local control state, so I wonder if that's something that has to pass at the county, that this is, you know, would need to go to a referenda, but I think they should be able to referenda, but
They're saying they're not going to because it's for a jail and it won't pass. Because they couldn't get an education one to pass by referendum, so they're like, well, it's not gonna pass, so they're gonna have to go through the county supervisors and have them approve it. It feels icky.
yeah, that doesn't sound great. No, we've got folks in the legislature, and if I can't get a memo from, I can get a memo from the Reference Bureau, lawyers that are way smarter than I am, but also talk to local government folks. We've got former local government officials in the legislature, and but I'm sorry that I would not want my money going to construction of a jail or. We should all learn more about local government, to be honest. I know. Oh, I appreciate the question. All right, I would like to bring up Amanda Bell, who's speaking next. But thank you all so much for coming. This really means a lot that you're spending your Saturday with us.